Hello everyone, Justin here, and today I'm going to show you how I draw a car, and I'll just be using a number 2 pencil here. And in this case I'm going to be drawing a Subaru WRX STI. Generally I'll always start by roughing in the shapes, the general shapes, prior to making any real dark lines. And in this case right here, I felt fairly comfortable with the initial shapes here, so I'm darkening it a little bit more. But generally I'll try to do the whole car first in fairly light tones, kind of compare, make sure I've got roughly the right dimensions. And this is really the more difficult views of a car, a 3/4 view, with a lot of things going on as far as perspective, generally 2-point perspective, with, for example, the wheels, instead of being round, they're going to be oval, and the axis of the wheel would have to follow the direction of the axles. Anyway, here I'm just roughing things out. Sorry about missing the right side of the car here, but this is really an exercise of drawing what you're actually seeing. So here we've got the reference picture in the upper left. You can tell right away that there's a good amount of perspective here, with the front of the car significantly smaller than the back because of perspective, and the right side of the back of the car is also slightly smaller than the left. So I'm still roughing in the shapes here of the giant spoiler. And again, I'm looking at parts of the drawing that I've already done and comparing what I'm about to draw to what I've already done. So I'm roughing in the shape of the tire here, and I can tell right away that it's a little bit too big. And I'm looking at how far the bottom of the tire is in relation to the bumper, and that first sketch was just a little bit too big. Here the tire is turned slightly to the left, and instead of being as oval shaped as the rear tire, it's going to take on a more circular shape just because it's turned. Again, I'm gonna start shading it a little bit more, and that's what I was talking about here, where I put a cross in the middle of the wheel, and the horizontal line of that is basically the direction of the axle. Darkening the tires. I'm just sketching this particular car. If I was more intent on making it detailed, I would definitely take a little more time to make sure everything is where it belongs a little bit more accurately. Especially this wheel. This wheel has a lot of spokes. I think it's got 5 main spokes, which each of which split into 2. It gets a little complicated, but I'm just roughing it in. I could have just left the windows plain, but just to be a little bit more realistic. And again, I'm trying to draw this exactly as the photo shows. So I'm showing the shadows that are in the windows, showing the interior shadows. And I'm just gonna suggest a little bit of the reflection on the sides of the car. This is a white car. There isn't as much shadowing going on as opposed to, say, drawing a darker car where there's some significant light differences. As far as using a number 2 pencil or a HB, there's really kind of a limit to how dark you can make it. If I wanted to have more of a contrast, I would also use a softer lead pencil, perhaps a 4B or 6B, but I'm gonna just use a number 2 pencil for this. Definitely use whatever you have. Sometimes I often actually like to use a mechanical pencil, and I'll use two of them, one with a HB lead and one with a 6B lead, just so I can get some darker tones. Alright, here's that shadow that I was talking about. Just really light shading, and you can get fairly light shading without too much effort with a number 2 pencil. Using my finger to blend it a bit, just to hide some of the pencil marks. I also have blending stubs that I can use. I'm not sure if I'll be using it in this one, but anyway. Depends on how finished you want your drawing or sketch to be. Again, this is just to me, this is just a sketch. So I don't care if I see some pencil marks in the final drawing or sketch, and I'm not too worried about the direction of the pencil strokes here. I know I'm trying to draw as accurate a representation of the photo as I can, but it's no way is it gonna be exactly or perfect, and that's okay. That's what cameras are for. Just trying to make it look as close to the photo as possible. And anybody who knows what a Subaru WRX looks like will instantly recognize this car. And unless you have the original photograph next to this drawing, you're never going to be able to tell that, well, this one's a little bit off, or this part's a little too big. So when you're drawing taillights, it's never one solid tone. There's always reflections. So always try to see where it's darker, where it's lighter, and try to draw it as you see it. And that'll make it look a little bit more realistic. Alright, so this whole back end of the car was a little bit darker, so I went ahead and just shaded it with my finger just to get an immediate tonal difference from the side of the car, which is just plain white. Putting in some shadows, give it some dimensional clarity. Got the STI logo there. I'm not really trying to be accurate there, just trying to show that there's a label there or an emblem. Once I'm done with roughing in the car, I'll usually go back and make the darker parts darker, the shadow areas, and the contrast just makes the whole drawing pop out a lot more. Right now it looks kind of plain, not a lot of contrast. Sometimes I'll go ahead and even outline the whole drawing with say a Sharpie, a thin Sharpie, just to make it pop out a little bit more. Again, perspective comes into play here with the tailpipes, because you're not looking directly straight on at the tailpipe. It's not going to be a round circle, it's going to be an oval. And again, keep in mind that the axis of that oval needs to follow the axis of the tailpipe. Here I'm just using the same tone for the bottom of the bumper, or below the bumper. to match that of the right rear tire. To me, they're just all in one shadow. It's all one shadow there. Alright, so the car doesn't look like it's just floating on the paper. You usually want to go ahead and put some shadow there on the bottom just so it looks like the car's actually on the ground. Just finishing up the rear window here with a little bit more shadow. And I'm almost done with this drawing. But anyway, the reason why I'm drawing this particular car today is because I ordered one finally. It's a car that I've been wanting for many years, and as we speak, it's actually on its way from Florida. I had to order it from Florida. I'm in Ohio. I had to order it from Florida because this particular car isn't that common. Most dealer lots don't have a lot of them, and I wanted it in white with certain options. So anyway, I didn't feel like just drawing any car, especially if I have no interest in that particular model. But I've drawn Porsches, Ferraris just because they're exotic and, you know, it's always interesting. But you're not gonna find me drawing a Ford Fusion. So you want to draw something that interests you, it makes it more fun. So here's the STI logo. I roughly sketched it in, and now I'm just finalizing some of the darker tones. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Try to draw some more cars down the road and other objects. Here you can see how I've darkened the shadows a little bit more. Take care and see you in the next one. Bye.